I'm Caity Massoud, and this is Flute Unscripted. I sit down with a new artist every week and share their uncensored stories with you. You're listening to Season 2, brought to you by Flute Center of New York, the exclusive marketplace for flutes. Join us and subscribe, and please stay tuned to the end of the episode for a very special Flute Center of New York code for our podcast listeners. You may have first heard today's guest on YouTube. She is perhaps most known for starting the flute at just 3 years old, and for having a large collection of impressive recordings online as a young child. Since then, Emma has been working hard. She graduated from Curtis, has given a number of solo performances with the National Symphony, Philadelphia Orchestra, Dallas Symphony, and Pittsburgh Symphony, has appeared at festivals and conventions, and she has been active in collaborating with emerging composers on new works for the flute. Emma will soon be making New York her home as she begins her master's degree at Juilliard with longtime teacher Jeffrey Kaner. Thank you, Emma, for coming today. It's a pleasure having you.
Oh, thank you. It's great to be here.
You're going to be going to Juilliard.
Yes.
To study with Jeff Kaner again, right?
Yes, I'm going to be continuing with him.
Yeah. So was that a conscious decision to stay on with him? I know a lot of people sometimes when they go to a different school, they want to maybe switch up their teachers. Did you want to stay with him and feel like you had more to learn from him?
Just since I got really used to how he teaches, and I personally think that he's very helpful to me, especially in terms of like preparing excerpts for auditions. Like I find him like he's extremely helpful for that. And then around the time when I was applying to schools, I didn't have a lot of time to meet the other teachers at other schools. So
right, which is important, like making the connections.
It's very, cause especially if you're moving to a new city, new school, and then and the teacher situation is a little awkward or something.
Right.
It's not always great. And so I figured he's already helped me so much, and that I should just continue with him.
When did you start studying with him?
When I got to Curtis, so 4 years ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so he's known you for
a
very long time.
He might get sick of me. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure he's thrilled to have you at Juilliard and be here in New York.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. And so you were saying he's helping you with excerpts and things like that. Is that kind of where you envision your career heading, or do you have a clear path, or are you just kind of open to whatever happens? I know you're really into new music also, and to chamber music.
Yeah, so I would ideally like to have an orchestra job. I really fell in love with it while I was at school because I didn't have that much orchestral experience before starting at Curtis, and I just really, really like just the community of an orchestra.
Yeah.
And so I would ideally like to have an orchestral career, but I also do like having new music projects, so I would also do that as well, and do chamber music and all that. Do you think
an orchestral career with the program would be kind of progressive enough for you, because you are doing so many new things and working with new composers and doing things that are exciting and new, and lots of times people are criticizing orchestras for programming the same music over and over again?
Yeah, there definitely is a lot of repetition. I think I like playing all music, so especially if I was able to have an orchestral job, I could still play really great music from the past, but then just go nuts on my own projects.
True.
And be really out there, because I know that a lot of orchestras are having issues with that, and hopefully it will change a bit, but I think it's also the musician's responsibility to personally to venture out and do new projects to attract attention to the orchestra.
Do you think that that's kind of the answer a little bit, is that the artists will attract their new audiences to come hear different kinds of music in the orchestral setting?
Yeah, I mean, there isn't any one clear answer, but I think it is up to, I think orchestras a lot of the times aren't sure how to advertise themselves maybe, and I think especially being raised in a non-musical family, I've listened to lots of other types of music, and I've been to different types of concerts. Like, it does feel very personal, and the having, like with celebrities, like people feel like they know them because because you know so much about them, and I think musicians need to be more open to having that kind of relationship with the audience.
Yeah. Do you feel comfortable with that? I mean, you've kind of been in the spotlight for a really long time now, and people know who you are through YouTube when you were introduced that way, and now through your own projects. Do you feel comfortable with that kind of attention?
I mean, it's just a part of it. I'm not gonna say that it makes me uncomfortable, but also like it's nice when I'm just around my friends and I can just be myself. I think as long as you can sort of get away from that a bit, it's really really easy to handle actually.
When I was doing a little bit of reading up on you, I thought it was interesting that you didn't talk for a really long time, right? Where you weren't speaking when you were very, very young, very little, and the flute was kind of your first voice?
Yeah, I was very shy for a long time. I don't think I fully got over it until I was about 11, which surprised a lot of people now because I never stopped talking.
Yeah.
But then also when I was younger, because I was able to just sort of, I thought of it basically as a switch. Like I was, regular Emma, like off the stage, and then on the stage I could just be like a different person. And I think that was the way that I was able to do it. But yeah, it definitely shocked a lot of people because like they would try to talk to me and I just sort of like run away.
Yeah. And now you're making up for it, like you said. Like
chatting. Now I'm overcompensating.
Right. Do you think that there was a downside to learning the flute so young? Obviously there are so many advantages. You're so talented and you've really made a lot of headway in your career so early on. But do you ever think that there are some drawbacks to learning so young?
It's actually interesting. I was talking to some people about that because I think especially it's not common for a lot of woodwind and brass players to start so young. And I don't know how it is for string players, but I know as a flutist, like as I was physically growing, I just had to like adjust how I played so much. And so I think if you're not aware of the fact that like you're going to have to change like basically every year what you're doing, I think like that you could possibly not play in a very healthy way when you get older and you could injure yourself or something. So I was lucky because all my teachers were always really good about that, and I studied with Alice Weinreb for most of my like developing years, and so she was really just on top of that. Like if I was doing anything weird, she would like tell me immediately. So I think it's just a lot of physical drawbacks that I would say. I think if you learn it while you're young and you really enjoy it, then like it's basically like second language. You know how to do it.
Yeah.
And it never gets easier. I mean, like I'm still getting better and adjusting things about my playing, but I think as long as you're physically like safe.
Because when you're a wind player too, your body is your instrument. So like you said, you're growing and you're changing, and so your instrument is changing.
Yeah, because even your breath capacity changes as you grow, and
I'm just curious, the flute that you started off on, and if you felt that also with your flute, because you started off, I'm assuming with a nice instrument, and then you're developing, you're growing, you're changing as a player, and just as a human being, you're growing up. So you're going to need to make a switch to another flute, right?
I mean, I started on a Jupiter, and because they have the, I know the design has changed since, but I had the curved head joint. And so, I mean, like with that, I mean, that helps when you're very young to just play safely.
Yes, like obviously you're not playing on a curved head Jupiter anymore.
Not anymore. But I mean, but even when I think I switched.
Did you have like a Sonare for a while? Did I read that?
No, I actually I went from Jupiter to a Powell actually from the start. So my second teacher really pushed for me to, or she really encouraged me to get a Powell flute just to upgrade. I think it was a student model, so it wasn't like a huge. Yeah. It wasn't like too wild of a difference. And I think I was probably like a tad smaller than like people would like when I switched to a straight head joint. But I mean, it worked out as long as you're careful about it. And I mean, at the time I was not playing nearly as much as I play and practice now. So I mean, it's also that. I mean, it wasn't like I was staying up 8 hours practicing. Like I was playing for like an hour a day. So,
yeah. And what do you play on now?
I'm still on a Powell, so I have a hand-made Powell now.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you have a silver head?
Oh no, it's gold. Yeah.
Great. I'm sure you've also heard the term prodigy many times thrown around. Maybe even sick of it. Do you think that there's something, as you mature and you get a little bit older, that you have to offer to music making that you don't have when you're young, when you are a prodigy?
Yeah, I think I go back and forth on it. I think the term prodigy takes a lot away from you, like as an artist, because I went to Curtis younger, and so I would be in performances with people who are between 18 and 30.
Yeah.
And people would say, oh, they're really great musicians, and then they would find out how old I am, and then like they would still be like impressed, but it was definitely a different type of impressed.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of detracts away from your own like actual ability and the work that you've put into it, and just being like, oh, that's like really like cool, that's like wow, whatever, like it's interesting. But I think it kind of detracts away from like the amount of work that you actually put into.
Do you think people didn't take your musical ideas as seriously when you're a prodigy?
I mean, I think that was also just from being young.
Yeah.
People who are actual adults will, I mean, I get that. Like, they're adults. They've been through school. They know the history and the theory of everything a lot more than I did when I was a kid.
Sure.
So I understand that. But I think I never had an issue with people like collaborating with people. Like I was pretty persistent about like making sure that I had a fairly equal voice. So I think I didn't have too much of an issue, but I'm sure plenty of people who are younger have issues with that.
So you're saying you feel mostly like you put in a lot of work when you're young, and it's kind of a misconception to think that prodigies, everything comes easily. Like you still have to work.
Yeah, really I mean, it took me, I'm constantly changing and having to adjust everything, and I think when you have the label, then it's just more about the label than about the actual work that you put in. So someone can like see you perform, and like when you perform, it should seem easy. Like nobody should ever watch a musician and think, oh wow, they had to work so hard. Like it should seem easy, but it's just the different connotations basically, which can seem kind of nitpicky, but
no, I get it for sure. Have you ever felt since getting that label kind of put upon you a pressure to live up to a reputation, and has that ever manifested itself into any sort of stage fright or performance anxiety for you?
No, I think like when I first started school, I think I got a little bit more nervous performing, but that was just because when you're younger, you don't think this during a performance the same way that you think when you're older. Like a lot, like I know for me when I was younger, like I basically would just kind of space out, and then it was just over, and then I had done it. But then like when you get older, like you have all the voices in your head that are just like making you think, oh no, what's next? Like, what's this note? What's this fingering? What's all this? And I think like I just had to adjust to that, but that's just a getting older and
everybody
having issues with
that.
Do
you have any tips for silencing all of that extra noise?
Well, I have for me, especially when I memorize pieces, I usually am just worried about having a memory slip, because it is extremely embarrassing when it happens. I usually just play through my entire program, or as much of the program that I can, like pretty close before the performance. I mean, you don't have to like full out go for it, just like kind of run through quickly. And then if you're memorizing it, do it from memory or with the music, just so that like that way I can tell myself walking on the stage, you just did this, you know how this goes, you know it, you're not gonna mess up, it's fine. And that whatever happens.
Oh wait, so do you have a story then about any memory slip up that was embarrassing that you want to share?
One time I played one of the Mozart concertos and missed an entrance.
Oh my god. So that everybody knows. That was pretty bad. Right? Yeah. It's not like some new piece where you can just brush it off and no one knows that one.
Yeah, it's like it just like skipped a chord.
Like, right, obviously.
Right. Yeah, no, that was a pretty obvious one, and that was interesting.
That would be embarrassing for any of us.
Yeah.
Emma is passionate about all genres of music and is active in her interest and support of new composers. She frequently premieres and performs new pieces. She's using YouTube in addition to other social media platforms to connect with her listeners and share her latest projects. You have been on YouTube forever, and you're active on social media. It's kind of how things are going these days. And so do you think that really is important when you're developing your career?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think really the main way to get yourself out there without already having like a great like orchestral job or teaching job is mainly through social media, just because like you're basically just fighting for attention. I mean, I know like when I scroll through Instagram, Facebook, and all that stuff, like it's very little actually catches my eye, so it's just kind of like throwing stuff out there until something comes back. Like with my Instagram page, I had set that up just because like a friend of mine wanted me to, and and then people just sort of noticed that I was there, and I just took advantage of it and just posted as much as I could.
Right.
Seems to be going okay.
Yeah. I wanted to talk a little bit more about your other interests outside of flute playing, maybe outside of music. You've said somewhere that music is your active and single-minded pursuit, very focused on it. Is there any room outside of music to do anything else when you are so focused and when it is such a large part of your life? Do you have any other interests that kind of keep you grounded and sane?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, you need that. Well, I have a dog. I've had her for like, I think 8 years now, and so especially like when I'm stressed out, I just like hyper focus on her, like just pamper her like no one's business.
What's your dog's name?
Maxie.
Aww.
Yeah, she's a little fluffy blonde dog. But yeah, one time, we usually get her haircuts pretty often, but one time I just let her hair grow out really long just because it was like kind of therapeutic to just like brush her out like every day. I mean, I think a lot of the times, especially like when I'm in school, it's just I spend so much time at school that like when I actually get home, there isn't a lot of time to do anything else. But I think just as long as you're finding a way to relax, like I mean, that's one of the great things about living in a city. You can just go outside, walk around. You're safe for the most part. Like you just walk around, see what's going on. That was always a nice thing about living in Philly. There was always like some sort of street thing going on. You could just check it out. Or being from DC, like the museums are free. Just as long as you just do something. I mean, I've met a lot of people at school that like that's it. Like they go to school, or like especially if they live there, they just stay there all the time and they go to classes and they practice and they just basically never go outside. You just need a way to recharge.
Right. Maybe do you think that was an advantage for you because you've lived off campus, right, when you were at Curtis?
Yeah, I think, I mean, especially, I mean, the walk to school, like, you don't really think about that, so I don't...
Right, that doesn't count.
Some people try to make that count. I do not think that counts. But, yeah, I mean, it does force you to, you have to take care of yourself, Ideally, you would, like, cook or something like that. I mean, I love cooking. I mean, I can really only make soup, but, like, the soups that I can make are very good. Yeah, I think just you need to find even just, like, little things to take your mind off it.
Sure.
Like, I don't think you need if you want a full-blown hobby, that's cool. I don't really feel like I have a, huge hobby on the side, but I definitely make sure that I, after getting my work done, work always comes first, but after getting all of your work done, that you find some way to relax. Yeah,
and to disconnect from it, too. It's a nice mental break, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because, especially when you're in school, there's just so much going on, and I think conservatories... Not that they're competitive, but like you do get very much in your head, and it's a lot about being perfect, which you should strive for that to a certain extent. And I think it just like you can really get in your head, and it starts to just kind of like blow up. Yeah. Yep.
Is your dog gonna come with you to New York?
No. I think I'm gonna end up traveling too much in order to take care of her. So she'll be. Her grandparents will pamper her. My parents.
Her doggy grandparents.
Yeah,
that's sweet.
Yeah.
What are you up to in the fall?
So I'll be starting at Juilliard to start my master's, and then I have a few gigs here and there. I'm going to be playing at the Long Island Flute Club for their flute festival in November.
Great.
And then there are a few others that haven't been quite confirmed yet. But
yeah, you'll be busy.
Yeah.
Cool. And do you have any heroes or anybody that I know I'm sure it's changed over the years, but is there anybody now that you're kind of looking up to in the flute world?
Yeah, there are a few people. I mean, I think there's a flutist, Claire Chase. She's in, I'm not sure. You know
Claire.
Yeah. I'm not sure if she left ICE or if she's still there, but,
not sure either.
But anyway, she basically founded ICE, and I don't think I could ever, like, have that kind of administration skills, but I definitely admire, like, just how much she, like, built all of that. And, like, I mean, they're a huge hub for contemporary music.
Yeah.
And it's really amazing.
Yeah.
And also, actually, my teacher, just because he does so many different types of performance, and I don't understand how he has any kind of free time, but he makes it work.
What advantage do you think he gives to his students? Because he has a very successful studio from Curtis, so... Yeah. What do you think is kind of the Kaner edge?
I think just he expects you to be like performance ready for every lesson, and I think like I have to imagine it's very hard to go to Curtis or Juilliard for 4 years and not come out just like a much better player, just because like he definitely expects you to be like, he expects you to make it work on your own and to show up and be prepared, and like like any excuse that you have really just isn't going to work, because that's how it is in the real world.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, you know, my parents aren't musicians, but it's the exact same thing in any job field. It's like, unless you're literally like on your deathbed, there really isn't any excuse for why you couldn't get something done. I mean, obviously there are other excuses,
right.
But the deathbed is like the extreme one. Yeah, I think it's just the expectation.
Do you think it makes you rise to a higher level yourself? Because
yeah, I mean, for me personally, I don't know how other flutists feel, but for me personally, I think it's just, I mean, my former teacher, Alex Weinreb, was like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course, you know, he's just had so much orchestral experience. So I mean, in terms of like the amount of students that he's had that have won our orchestral auditions,
yeah,
I mean, it's obviously however he preps us, it's right.
It's working,
so,
yeah. It's working for sure. I've wondered, because I'm sure over the years you've earned a lot of fellowships and scholarships, and those over time, as you make a name for yourself, those opportunities do open a lot of doors for you. Mm-hmm. Do you think that for other people that might not have those kinds of opportunities, that that music can kind of be a hard field to be in? You know, it's financially, it's expensive. There's lots of hardships with auditioning, lessons, buying instruments. If you don't kind of get a leg up, it feels like a really impossible field.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I actually have not gotten many scholarships or anything. I've gotten like one educational scholarship in my entire life, and then of course Curtis's free tuition. I mean, I'm fortunate enough just because my parents could afford to have both daughters be musicians. Yeah, it's definitely not like, it's not a field that's friendly to everybody, and that's a difficult topic, just because, I mean, when I was at school, a lot of people were talking about how, you know, you go to conservatories and you expect because it's an art field that's going to be extremely diverse, but it's honestly not very.
True.
And I mean, I think obviously the colleges are going to accept who they think is best, and it really does kind of go back to just how schools are, and the fact that schools are having a lot of issues. I mean, especially in cities. I mean, in Philly, very few public schools have music departments or music classes, mm-hmm. and most of their instruments are broken, and most of the students can't take the instruments home because they can't afford the deposits on them, and yeah, it's very difficult to get to start if you're not if you're
not like already in an advantageous position.
If you don't have the means to do. I mean, obviously people have done it and it works out really great, but it is definitely extremely risky if you don't have much to fall back on.
Right. And were you ever involved in Philly, or do you have any plans in New York to do any sort of outreach stuff?
Yeah, I did a little bit of outreach in Philadelphia. I don't know what I'll be doing in New York, but I hope to do a little bit of that. I think especially if you're going to convince anybody in an outreach program to try out music, it's going to be like little kids. So I think it's very important for musicians to go out and engage, because, you know, most parents want the best for their kids. Yeah. And so like if a kid really, really wants to, you know, try out music and is very passionate about it, then the hope is that they would be able to do it somehow. Mm-hmm. So I hope to do a little bit of outreach here.
Great. Well, we look forward to you moving to New York, and we're really excited. Hopefully you stop by Flute Center and say hi.
Oh,
and
of course.
Excited to see what the future has in store for you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
For all that Emma has already accomplished at such a young age, it's hard to imagine how her career can get any better. But in the midst of all the success, she is still grounded. She admits that she does most of her own managing and has gone through many of the same growing pains as the rest of us, like learning to live on her own, finding a work-life balance, and getting all that quality time with her dog. Thank you, Emma Resmini, for making the time to talk and for sharing your recordings. This episode features Jennifer Higdon's Legacy, Black Anemones by Joseph Schwantner, and Mason Bates's Elements. This has been an episode of Flute Unscripted. This podcast is sponsored by the Flute Center of New York. Visit their website at flutesforsale.com for the largest selection of new and pre-owned instruments. Use this season's promo code LISTEN for a special deal of $50 off any purchase of $4.99 or more. You can follow the Flute Center on Instagram and like them on Facebook to stay up to date on the latest events and masterclasses. Special thanks to our owner Phil Unger, the Flute Center team, and Stefan Huskoldson for our theme music.